There's a moment in life when you have to pause and really look at where you are, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. For so many of us, the walls that feel like they're holding us back aren't made of bricks or steel. They're built from thoughts, beliefs, and fears we've repeated to ourselves for so long that we've started to believe they're true. That's what a mental prison looks like. It's invisible, but it feels so heavy, so real, that we start to shrink inside of it. The hardest part is that most of us don't even know we're in it. We wake up every morning thinking, this is just the way life is. We say things like, this is who I am, I can't change, I'm stuck. And we wear that belief like a name tag. But those thoughts are just stories we've been telling ourselves. Somewhere along the way, someone may have told you that you weren't good enough, smart enough, worthy enough, and you believed it. Then you started repeating it over and over until it became the narrative you live by. You see, the most dangerous prisons aren't built outside of us. They're built inside our minds. And the key, the freedom, is in noticing, really noticing, that you're in one. Because you cannot break free from what you don't even realize is holding you. Ask yourself, what's the story I've been telling myself about why I can't move forward? Is it that you don't have enough time, enough money, enough talent? Is it because you think you're too young or too old, too inexperienced, or too late? That's not truth, that's fear talking. And fear is loud, but it's not accurate. The moment you recognize that those fears are just thoughts, just noise, you take back power. You begin to see the difference between who you are and what your mind has been telling you. You are not your doubt. You are not your fear. You are not your mistakes. Those are just experiences and feelings, and they don't define your value or your potential. But here's the thing, you can't free yourself until you're honest with yourself. Sit in the quiet. Take inventory of those voices in your head. Whose voice is that telling you you're not good enough? Whose voice says you shouldn't dream bigger? Sometimes it's the echoes of someone else's fear or judgment, and we've been carrying it so long we think it's ours. It's not. When you start noticing, when you bring that awareness to the surface, it's like turning on the light in a dark room. Suddenly, you see those walls for what they are. Just thoughts. And thoughts can change. You don't have to fight the whole prison in one day. You just start by naming it. This is fear. This is doubt. This is me believing an old story. And then you tell yourself, I'm willing to believe something new. Freedom starts with willingness. Willingness to question everything your mind has been whispering, every limitation you've accepted as truth. Willingness to see yourself as worthy of more. Because when you recognize your mental prison, you realize it's not locked. It never was. The door has always been open, waiting for you to walk through. And yes, it's uncomfortable to step out of something familiar, even if that familiar space is painful. But staying trapped because it feels safe is not living. Living is when you take that first step toward possibility, when you decide you are so much more than the thoughts that have kept you small. You are bigger than your fears. You are bigger than your doubts. And the moment you see those mental walls, you also see the truth. You don't belong inside them. You belong out in the open, creating, thriving, loving, and daring to be everything you were born to be. The words we speak to ourselves are powerful. They are like seeds planted deep in our minds, and whether we realize it or not, they grow into the life we live every single day. The quiet conversations you have with yourself when no one is watching, the whispers in your mind when you look in the mirror, when you step into a challenge, or when you dream of something bigger, those words matter. And so often, those words are harsher than anything we'd ever say to another person. We call ourselves failures before we've even tried. We say, Sir, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. And with every word, every thought, we carve out a reality that feels heavy and hopeless. This is why it's so important to notice your self-talk, because the truth is your mind believes what you feed it, and it doesn't know the difference between fact and fear. If you keep saying, I can't, eventually you stop trying. If you keep saying, I'm not enough, eventually you stop showing up. But the beautiful thing is this, you have the power to change the conversation. You can choose a new story. You can decide right here and right now to stop tearing yourself down and start building yourself up. It's not about pretending life is perfect or ignoring your challenges. It's about choosing words that empower instead of words that imprison. Think about this. How often do you celebrate yourself? How often do you acknowledge the progress you've made, even in small ways? Most people don't, because we've been conditioned to focus on what's wrong instead of what's right. We've been taught to be our own toughest critic instead of our greatest encourager. But you can change that starting today. When your mind says, I can't do this, change it to, I'm learning how. When you hear yourself think, this is impossible, reframe it to, I will find a way. That simple shift in language opens up possibilities. It turns walls into doors. It takes you from being stuck to moving forward, one thought at a time. And yes, it feels awkward at first because we are so used to criticizing ourselves. It feels almost unnatural to say, I am capable. I am worthy. I am enough. But that awkwardness is just proof that you're stepping out of old patterns. Keep saying it anyway. Say it until it feels real. Say it until you believe it. Because repetition is how your brain rewires, and every time you choose a better word, you are reshaping how you see yourself. There's a reason we are told to speak life into ourselves. Words have energy. When you speak words of strength, they plant hope. They build confidence. They give you courage to take steps you wouldn't have dared to take before. And here's the beauty. You don't have to wait for anyone else to affirm you. You can give yourself that gift every single day. It's also about catching the subtle ways we sabotage ourselves. Maybe you laugh off your dreams and say, Veo, I could never do that. Maybe you brush off compliments with, I just got lucky. These little moments matter because every time you downplay who you are, you reinforce a belief that you are less than you really are. Stop that. Accept the compliment. Own your wins. Dare to say, yes, I can do this. I am prepared. I am ready. Reframing yourself. Talk doesn't mean ignoring reality or challenges. It means speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you deeply love. If your best friend came to you scared, unsure, or full of doubt, you wouldn't tear them down. You'd lift them up. You'd tell them they are capable, strong, and worthy of success. You deserve that same kindness from yourself. This isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It's about creating momentum for your life. Because when you shift your self-talk, you shift your energy, and when you shift your energy, you shift your actions. And action is what changes everything. So start small, one thought at a time. When the old voice whispers, you can't, you answer, watch me. When the old voice says, 5, you're not ready, you respond, I'll grow into it. Every single moment you choose a new story, you take one more step toward the life you were meant to live. Your words are the paintbrush for the canvas of your life. What you say to yourself shapes what you create. So be intentional. Speak with love. Speak with power. Speak like your future depends on it, because it does. One of the greatest gifts you can ever give yourself is grace. Grace for the times you stumbled. Grace for the moments when you didn't show up as your best self. Grace for when you doubted, hesitated, or even gave up. Because here's the truth, none of us get it perfect. None of us move through life without tripping, without second-guessing, without carrying a few regrets. But perfection is not the goal, progress is. Too often, we demand from ourselves what we would never demand from anyone else. We hold ourselves to an impossible standard, and then when we inevitably fall short, we punish ourselves with harsh words, with shame, with comparison. But life is not meant to be lived under constant self-criticism. Life is meant to be lived with compassion, especially toward yourself. You are not just your achievements. You are not just your mistakes. You are a work in progress, evolving, learning, becoming. Every time you get back up after a fall, you're proving your strength. Every time you learn from a mistake, you're proving your wisdom. And yet, so many of us only see what went wrong. We focus on the misstep instead of the lesson, the failure instead of the growth. It's time to change that story. It's time to start treating yourself the way you'd treat someone you love unconditionally. Think about it. If your child, your friend, or your partner came to you and said, I messed up. I failed. I feel like I'm not enough. You wouldn't tear them down. You would comfort them. You would tell them, it's okay. You're human. You can try again. That same kindness is what you need to extend to yourself. Practicing self-compassion means giving yourself permission to be human. It means understanding that failure is not final, that your past does not define you, and that you deserve patience as you grow. Because growth is messy. Transformation is messy. There are days when you will take 10 steps forward and days when you'll take 5 steps back. And both are okay because you're still moving, you're still learning, you're still trying. Giving yourself grace doesn't mean lowering your standards or making excuses. It means acknowledging that the road to becoming your best self is full of twists, turns, and moments of uncertainty. It means choosing to celebrate the small victories instead of focusing only on what hasn't happened yet. It means saying to yourself, I am doing the best I can with what I have, and that is enough for today. One of the most powerful ways to practice grace is to reframe how you view mistakes. Instead of saying, see, I failed, try saying, I learned something I didn't know before. Instead of saying, I'm not there yet, try saying, I'm on my way. Words have power, and when you choose compassionate words, you open the door to healing, to resilience, and to confidence. Self-compassion is also about slowing down and honoring where you are right now. Too often, we rush through life chasing the next goal, the next achievement, the next milestone, thinking we'll finally feel good enough when we get there. But if you can't love yourself now, you won't magically love yourself later. Love and acceptance are not rewards for success. They are the foundation for it. So pause and breathe. Look at yourself, not with judgment, but with understanding. Say to yourself, I am proud of me. I am proud of the way I keep showing up even on the hard days. I am proud of my heart, my effort, my willingness to keep going. That's what grace looks like. It's patience, it's kindness, it's forgiveness. The beautiful thing is, when you start practicing self-compassion, everything changes. You stop fearing failure so much because you know you'll meet yourself with kindness no matter what. You stop comparing yourself to others because you recognize your own unique path. And you start taking more courageous steps because you trust yourself enough to handle whatever comes. Give yourself grace because you are growing. Give yourself compassion because you are learning. And give yourself love because you are worthy right now, as you are, not just when you get it right. You are already enough, even as you strive to become more. Freedom is not just a one-time decision. It's not a single breakthrough moment where everything changes forever and life suddenly becomes easy. Freedom is a choice you make over and over again every single day. It's a decision to no longer let fear, doubt, or old patterns dictate how you live. Every morning when you wake up, you have the opportunity to choose again, to choose courage over comfort, faith over fear, growth over staying stuck. Sometimes we think freedom will come when everything outside of us changes, when we finally have enough money, when we get the dream job, when someone finally validates us. But that's not where freedom lives. Freedom lives inside of you. It's in the way you think, the way you respond, and the way you decide what you're willing to believe about yourself and your life. Choosing freedom daily means noticing those moments when your old habits creep back in. When fear whispers, don't try. When doubt says, you can't do this. When comfort tells you to stay small. And in those moments you say, no, not today. Today I choose differently. That's how freedom works. It's not one big leap. It's small steps taken consistently. You don't have to feel ready to choose freedom. You don't even have to feel brave. You just have to be willing to step out of the mental cages you've built, willing to let go of the stories that no longer serve you, willing to try again, even when yesterday felt heavy. That willingness is powerful because it shifts your energy from being a victim of your mind to being the author of your life. It also means making choices that align with the life you truly want. Freedom is not only about thinking differently, it's about acting differently. It's saying yes to opportunities you once feared. It's saying no to situations and people that drain your spirit. And it's trusting yourself enough to keep moving forward even when you can't see the whole path. There will be days when it feels easier to slip back into old patterns, when the prison of your comfort zone feels safer than the uncertainty of growth. But every day you wake up and choose again, you strengthen the belief that you are capable of more. You're training your mind to see life through the lens of possibility instead of limitation. One of the most empowering truths is that freedom doesn't have to wait until you fix everything about yourself. You don't have to be perfect to choose it. You don't have to have all the answers, all the resources, or all the confidence. Freedom begins the moment you decide, "Zwaters, I deserve better than the life my fears are trying to convince me to accept." That decision opens the door, and every choice you make after that is another step through it. Choosing freedom also means letting go of comparison. You can't live fully if you're always looking over your shoulder, measuring yourself against someone else's highlight reel. Your path is your own, your timing is your own, and your growth is uniquely yours. Celebrate that. When you free yourself from the need to measure up to someone else's standard, you create space to define success on your own terms. And freedom is not just about breaking free from what holds you back. It's about leaning into what lights you up. It's about pursuing the things that bring you joy, that awaken your creativity, that make you feel alive. Because when you choose freedom daily, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. You're giving yourself permission to live a life that feels true to who you really are, not one shaped by fear or expectation. So every morning, ask yourself, what does freedom look like for me today? Maybe it's speaking up when you'd normally stay silent. Maybe it's starting that project you've been scared to begin. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for something you've been holding on to for too long. Freedom is not one big moment. It's found in the small choices you make moment by moment. Keep choosing it, even when it's hard, even when your mind tries to drag you back to old patterns. Because every time you choose freedom, you prove to yourself that you are not your past, you are not your fear, and you are not stuck, you are free. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes, until one day you realize you've been walking in freedom all along because you've been choosing it all along.